Other Race, and it's about biracial students and biracial people. We couldn't really target like one positive thing about biracial people because there's such a variety of biracial people. And we wanted to emphasize that biracial people aren't just white and black. There's different, you know, Asian and white, and, you know, there's different biracial people. And we wanted to demonstrate positive people who are biracial. That way, you know, and that's kind of like what you would do as a teacher to make biracial people feel more confident in themselves, is to introduce them to people who are biracial and to demonstrate that we are all essentially biracial by some means or another. So, one positive example is Steve Jobs. And for anybody that don't know, Steve Jobs was the co-founder of Apple Incorporated. His father was Syrian, and his mother was an American of German-Swiss descent. And, of course, he passed away, but he will be forever remembered for his contribution towards modern technology. And another very obvious is Obama, and he's the first biracial president. Notice I said biracial president. His father is African, more specifically Kenyan. His mother is English, Scottish, Irish, German, Welsh, Swiss German, French, and possibly African descent. That's debated. Okay?
And next we have Mariah Carey. She's an American R&B singer. She's a writer, actress, and a recorder, a record producer who has many contributions to the society. She is Congressional Horizon Award recipient for her humanitarian work and is well known for helping children in need, especially the underprivileged ones. She is the co-founder of Camp Mariah, where inner city youth can come to learn about arts and explore career opportunities, which they are not able to do on a day-to-day basis where they live and everything. She also established the Fresh Air Fund, a nonprofit organization that provides children from the worst neighborhoods in New York City free summer vacations. We have next Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And we all know him as the wrestler, but he does have a nice side to him also. And he's a movie star. He is descended from African Canadian and Samoan backgrounds. He founded the Dwayne Johnson Rock Foundation, which focuses on children who are hospitalized with certain illnesses, education, and obesity prevention. He is also a director of the Beacon Experience, which is to encourage education past high school years. Johnson also supports the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Okay, next we have Jordan Christopher McGowan, which is Anna's baby boy. Jordan is African American, Irish, American descent. He has been liked for many people who are ones very closed-minded about biracial children. He has come into contact with many who have looked down on him and did not want to be around him. Despite their negativity, Jordan has held fast to his lovely personality and cheerful demeanor, allowing those who once thought negatively of biracial children to fall in love with him. He has opened many eyes to the truth. A child is a child no matter the color.
Okay, and an example of what I mean by that little statement is my babysitter's husband when he first started going, he didn't want him there. I didn't know this. It's a good thing I didn't, because he would have never stayed in that with my babysitter, but she didn't want him, the husband didn't want him there. And for her to tell me now, it's like mind-blowing to me, because they are close. He cuts grass with him, dresses him up like him. I mean, they are together all the time. And I was not aware that he had any problem with biracial children, because it was never made known to me until recently. And my babysitter actually told me that, you know, she had been telling him that he has to get past that, and she said she prayed about it, that before she even got Jordan, that God would change his way. And I really think, and this is not me being cocky or arrogant or anything, but I really think that God uses children a lot of times. And I feel like that he really used my child to open that man's eyes, because it is totally different now. You would have never thought that he had any problem with biracial children, but he is completely in love and adores Jordan now. So that's just an example.
Because as God's children, we're all supposed to love everybody no matter what they are, because if you dislike something just because they're different than you, then you're not showing God's love to everybody.
And another key point I love to make, the last sentence was the truth, a child is a child no matter the color of skin. We as teachers, becoming teachers, we have to realize that it's just skin color. That doesn't mean that we are able to learn. We have to teach each child in our classroom. My next thing, everybody's seen the Cheerio commercial. Everybody know that it was a big problem because it was mixed family. We're gonna show the video.
Yes, honey?
Dad told me that Cheerios is good for your heart. Is that true?
Says here that Cheerios has whole grain oats that can help remove some cholesterol. Nuts are healthy.
Okay, we do have some comments that were actually from on YouTube. I'm gonna beat stuff out.
And y'all did see that there was nothing actually negative about biracial children in the actual commercial, but
One person said, "I'm never eating Cheerios again. It's a disgrace. It's a full of beef." And someone commented back and said, "Yep, we either the last thing I want to picture while eating groceries is some abnormal family," which is very rude. And the next comment was a girl named Sarah. She said, "I can't believe this is even an issue. I literally was looking through my favorite news feed and I saw this. I seen the commercial 1,000 times and never noticed that the family was biracial. I like it. There's cute love and there are millions of families who are biracial. My brother has a biracial son. My cousin is a wonderful woman of color that he met. Her cousin married a woman of color. Most of my friends are married to a man of color. There's no problem. It's just love, and it proves that loves come in all shapes, forms, and fashions." I do want to ask the class a question. You want to like answer. What do you all feel about the commercial as far as being a biracial family?
I agree with Sarah. I mean, I never noticed it either. Just was another family.
I noticed that. I didn't thought it was
And the guy played on the door.
Very true. It is an invitation.
You know, I didn't even think about it one way or the other. Like I said, until then all the backlash came from it. Then I started paying attention. Then I even noticed, because this is their second commercial. They have the other, right?
Well, she's pregnant with another baby.
Right, and then I know people were concerned that they were portraying the father resting and like, oh, now, like, you know, he's lazy and he's this. So I think people took this one commercial and took it all from every spectrum they could. But just so surprising. I really thought we were just so far past debate in terms of biracial families, to be honest with you.
Well,
I thought it was
actually,
nice. You look at the house,
yeah.
and you look at how nice they're all dressed. You look at how I noticed that it was a biracial couple when I saw it, but it looked to me like a very positive light on it because they're in a nice house. They dress nice. The little girl is obviously smart and worried, and I thought it was a very positive thing myself, and I thought it was cute.
Well, there was so much negative feedback from the commercial that YouTube actually shut down the comment section.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many people were saying so much negativity, they didn't want it up there anymore. So the commercial's still on YouTube, but you can't comment on it one way or the other.
And then Cheerios said they refused to pull the commercial, so they continued with the I mean, we have so many different types of families that we see on TV. You can watch Modern Family, and you can see biracial couples, the gay couple, the whatever. I mean, and like you said, it's not like I was oblivious to, oh, that man is black, this one is white, but it didn't even register to me like I should think twice that it's problematic. I mean, it was a family, and I guess that's what I didn't even think, oh, I wonder if somebody's going to be, concerned about this.
I didn't know people pay that close attention to commercials.
It's so contradictory. I guess just society as a whole is very, very contradictory because they love little, what's her name, Ollie North, Kim Kanye's daughter, love the little baby to death. Then you think about Brad Pitt and all of their children, and they love that family to death. So I don't understand what the difference is. It's just real crazy.
And then with this, we're not saying that the commercial itself is actually negative, but the backlash is negative. And I think a lot of people feel like people that claim that they're not racist but oppose interracial dating or biracial children, they use this as kind of an argument. This is how people are going to act if you have this child. This is kind of how they respond to biracial children, or somebody's pregnant in their family with a biracial child, and they're like, this is what you got to live with for the rest of your life. And it's not always like that. So.
And this phrase just sums it all. All the problems in the world today, and you're mad because my parents don't match. I mean, get along.
Right. You have two more comments to read, because I'm glad our teacher said what she said, because one lady, which is 60 years old, she said, sad but not surprising, in almost 60 years of my life, I never seen the level of racism that I've seen in the last 6 years. We have come so far, but have so much farther to go, which is a true statement, because a lot of people think it's not here, but it's here, it's just a little hidden. And the next comment, the last one I'm going to read is from Elliot. He says, it's hard to believe that Cheerios is breaking new ground with the President of the United States is the son of a white mother and a black father. Maybe 1 in a million has a problem with that. So what is it's time to move on.
Okay, another negative example is some people think that biracial children don't fit in. Because there are still many who oppose interracial. Because biracial children are made of more than one race, many feel that the children will never really fit in with one race or the other. For example, if you have a child that's Caucasian and Asian, and it won't be able to relate fully to Caucasian children or fully to Asian children. They can grow up with certain psychological and developmental issues, not being able to relate or develop a true identity. They will always feel a lack of belonging, and it's called tragic mulatto. And this myth suggests that biracial children will grow up to be misfits who are angry because they don't belong to a certain group of people. And in this picture, this is Anna's son, Jordan, and his best friend is your niece. And most people, you gotta think when they see a biracial child, and people are judgmental. But she said that she cannot, or he cannot be happier with his cousin. But they're like best friends, and I mean that's really how it should be.
And I know she's so young that she's not gonna look at him as different. But my 6-year-old niece is older, and she knows that he's darker and she's lighter. But she doesn't care, And I think that's an important part, that children they're not born caring whether you're this color or that color or the other color. They might ask why people are different, but they don't really care. You're my friend, that's all that matters. It's really taught at home. That really comes from the family, like the family being racist or against this or against that. And as teachers, I think we got to counterattack that any way you can and show that everybody is just, you know, it's just a child, that's just a child. And all the children that we use in our presentation, they're just children. All the people, they're just people. They're different races, they're mixed up with different people, but they're all just people.
It is also thought that biracial children will lack maybe one of their families because there's still many who oppose interracial relationships, especially the older generation. And many feel that, like, okay, if this family opposes the whole relationship and doesn't want any part of the child's life, he or she is missing a whole, part of the family. That's an example we have here, an African American and Indian, and the Indian side is opposed to the relationship, and they begin to just don't even worry about that child. So, this child is gonna have lack of family support and love, and it could grow up with psychological issues, and they feel they're not wanted or loved, and every child needs to be wanted and loved.
Biracial children are bad. I've heard this from a lot of older people. When I was pregnant, I heard that, oh, you're having a mixed child, and he'll be bad. I mean, I don't know why that's said, but anyway, the older generations believe, and for example, this is two biracial children, one of them's trying to pray, and I mean, my son is not, my niece is a little more less behaved than my son, so I mean, you can't go by whether they're mixed or not. Biracial children aren't bad just because they're biracial. They're bad because somebody's not raising them right. But you've got people that really believe biracial children are bad.
I can honestly say that the older generation, they always, like my grandmother just turned 101, and to this day, she got all the time, but she still remember a lot of stuff because she grew up dealing with the black and the white thing. So she always said, don't go outside your race. Like, grandma, it's a new day and era. You have to go outside of your race to understand a lot of things. And she is so strong-headed because she's like, I don't like white people. They did this and they did that. And to this day, they come and try to feed her. She's like, ain't no practice Irish. This is exactly what she said. Ain't no practice touching my food. And I have to look at her. Grandma, that's not nice, but it's because of where she was raised and what time period she was raised, because she was 101. That's the only thing she knows. So if my older sister come in, which is like your complexion, Emily's complexion, she like, that's not my grandbaby. And she will not talk to her. She's like, that's a white baby, that's not my grandbaby. It's just stuck in their mind frame because what age period she grew up in.
And like it says that it's, you're made to feel shameful if you have like a mixed baby in your family or anything. And I know I've been told several times my sister's having one, at the end of April, and I'm told, to, what are you going to do having a baby out of your family? You're going to love them and care for them just like anybody else because that's your family. And, so many people just really lost compassion and everything for kids these days to hate on somebody just because their color is not the same. So.
Okay, this is a poem called White Lies. The lies I could tell when I was growing up, light bright, near white, high yellow, red bones in a black place where just white lies. I could easily tell the white folks that we lived uptown, not in the pink and green, shantified, shotgun section along the tracks. I could act like my homemade dresses were straight out the window of Mason Blanche. I could even keep quiet as kept, like the time a white girl said, squeezing my hand. Now we have 3 of us in this class. But I paid for it every time Mama found out. She laid hands on me, then washed out my mouth with ivory soap. This is to purify, she said, and cleanse you of your lying tongue. Believing her, I swallowed suds, thinking they worked from the inside out.
Okay, I picked the poem because we was reading it in English 1102, and it's from Natasha Theirway, and she is biracial. Her dad is white, her mom is black, and she was born in Mississippi, Matter of fact, Gulfport, Mississippi, in 1966. Everybody know in the 60s that was the main thing was in Mississippi. That was the top place that black people actually got sworn and lynched and stuff. The reason why I picked the poem was because in the poem she's talking about she was biracial, but she looked more lighter than the average mixed person, and she would go in downtown and act like she was fully white, like she would just on her black side just to fit in, not knowing that what was really going on. So her mom began to people began to say her mom was going on, and her mom washed her mouth out iris soap because iris soap was meant to be purified because it's white. And the next point I would like to make is her contribution. She's a state poet of Mississippi, and she's a 19 U.S. poet in literature of the Library of Congress. And it's a high honor because if you're a library poet in the Congress or whatever, she is the top poet that represents the United States in other countries when they have to go compete or whatever. She's the top one. And I want to say that it's a blessing because she's biracial, so she sees both sides. She don't just look at one side. And she really a great poet. That's why we put the poem that she wrote called White Lies.
These are our questions that we were supposed to answer. How these portrayals impact the school environment and personal perceptions of biracial children. For starters, there will always be people who view biracial children negatively. These people will pass on their beliefs to their children, so the tragic mulatto myth will live on. Children will come to school and treat biracial children as if they have leprosy, which just with everybody being in a school setting, you know how that feels. You know, everybody gets, you know, pointed out once or twice that you're not the same or different, but can you imagine that on an everyday basis? They won't understand that they aren't different. People who oppose interracial relationships will use the negative ideas about biracial children to support their reasons for opposing the relationships. Through the positive examples that many biracial people are making, hopefully less will continue on the hatred as they see the truth. Positive examples, like the ones provided in the presentation, will eventually benefit biracial children as they will become more accepted. And as you see, we have our poster too also of all our positive ones that have contributed a lot to the world as we know it today. What can teachers do to battle negative portrayals of biracial children? Teachers can present lessons that trace the ethnic background of students to demonstrate that all of us are biracial to one degree or another. And I know with me, I'm English and then Native American and then Native American also, and I'm biracial even though I get called white, you know. But yeah,
I'm Native American and Caucasian and Irish.
And teachers can celebrate diversity in the classroom and teach tolerance of all races and ethnicity. Teachers can also introduce positive historical figures who were biracial, such as Booker T. Washington, Frederick Douglass, and W.E.B. Du Bois. Allowing students to see positive examples will help them to understand that the negative portrayals of biracial people are false.
So we didn't forget our questions. I did the first question, Rob. The first question is, how do you feel about biracial children?
And there's no correct answer, we just want to hear everybody's
It's a
feedback.
discussion question.
Well, I have biracial children, and fortunately, both of our families, you know, are very down to earth. You know, my children that I know of have never been called any names. They love them. My Mexican family loved them just as if they were 100% Mexican. My white side of the family, you know, my in-laws, they loved him just as if they were 100% white. I mean, I've never had a problem with it.
I think it can be really pretty. No, and I was going to say that's interesting because I'd never heard that biracial children are deemed to be bad. I've never heard that before today. I've always heard that they're just beautiful. And you know, you can have two ugly parents, black and white or whatever. And the kids are pretty. And I've heard that You know, I haven't seen an ugly biracial child yet, truth be told. I mean, that's very stereotypical, but I just haven't. But like I said, I've never heard the bad thing, but just in terms of their children are just always beautiful, just the blending or whatever. But then too, I wonder, and I don't know if this happens in all races or not, but I know sometimes it happens in the African American culture, sometimes to some people I know. But I wonder for biracial children, are you ever not, like say if you're black and white, are you ever, you know, not black enough to be considered black, but not white enough to be considered white? But I know even African American people, sometimes if you act a certain way, and I think someone said it in this class, someone said, you know, oh, or you're acting white, or you talk white, or you whatever. So then it's hard to identify or trying to look at who do I identify with, or who is like, you know, who's like me, or whatever the case may be.
I've heard that a lot, and I even know some of them, you know, that they can act both, you know, the African-American style and the white style. You know, they can get along with both. They can act the same way, you know, differently with both of them.
And I guess then the question is, what is being black?
I
think that's the thing, because I think what people want, right, they want to believe that, you know, every black person, say, talks with Ebonics, or every black person is on welfare. You know, I think people have a picture of who is the black American, who is the white American. So I think us just coming out of those shells, but people feeling like you can't identify one way or the other, you know.
My mama works with a lady, and she has biracial children. She's divorced from her ex-husband, but she has biracial children, and their daddy has been sending them home with very, very anti-white ideas. And he's been sending her home telling her that her mama is just trying to make her all white, and her mama is doing this and that. And so they went to a family gathering, and they were taking a big family picture, and her family is completely accepting. But for some reason she was on the second row, and she started hollering that they were trying to cover her up because she was black. And I mean, she pitched a fit, and it was all because her daddy was poisoning her. You know, her grandpa didn't take it at all. He straightened her out real quick because they did accept her, but he was doing that. He was making out like her mother was just trying to push her to the side and was ashamed of her.
Well, I was just gonna, I'm sorry, caveat off what Miss Professor Clark was saying, that my younger brother, he's deceased now, but my younger brother, his grandfather was white. We have different fathers. His grandfather was white, and so in our household and in our family, he was the pretty baby, you know, with the pretty hair. And as my brother, you know, I just saw him as my big brother. Now, I will say, the Joker was bad. But it had nothing to do, it had zero to do with his race, his, you know, grandparents being, his grandfather, you know, being Caucasian. It's just simply, he was a boy, and that's just how he acted. But then also, on the flip side, my oldest daughter's dad, my ex-husband, is part of a biracial family. For him, it's kind of like down the line a little bit, but you can see it's very evident in his complexion. But me personally, I didn't even know it. I didn't even think about it until I met one of his relatives. All I thought was that he was really light in the wintertime and he got dark in the summertime. That's the only thing I just, you know, thought about until I met, you know, his aunt, who was an older aunt. She was like 80-something at the time. You can see she was 100% Caucasian. But it just never dawned on me to even think about his. And then we were in the military too. So in the military, you green. That's it. In the Army, everybody's green, period. There is no black, there's no white, there's no red, no yellow. When you put that uniform on, you're green. And that's it. So I guess, you know, that's where it didn't, I never heard about the bad thing, you know, not fitting in because all the biracial people I know. fit in better.
Well, I think the idea that biracial children are bad probably came from, this is just an example. I don't mind sharing this. My mother was very against the idea of me being in an interracial relationship. She was very against me having a child and it being biracial. And she, I mean, we're not gonna go into detail, but now that he's here, she gets onto him less than the other children, and I feel like it's guilt. Like maybe she feels guilty for the way she acted before I had him. And I guess if you had a whole family doing that, like maybe they were letting him get away with more because he's different, then they would be bad. But I think that's where it comes from. You have some people that because they feel guilty for the way that they acted before the child was born or shortly after the child was born, that maybe they let them do more now because like this will make up for what I did. That's just my idea.
Okay, I'm gonna ask, just one more question at least. Can anyone name another, sorry. How can we as educators set an example for students, that we're all equal, no matter what color? Any ideas?
Other than what we said.
Just treat everybody the same. Be fair but firm with all of them.
I would say acknowledge their culture, but not necessarily their race. Because culture, even within a race, can be different, and it's very important. They know about their color, but don't make their culture, don't make their skin color, be a factor in anything.
And we also, where's that guy? We want to point out, Steve Jobs over there. He's biracial, but he doesn't look biracial. You know, it's not, what is he? Syrian. There's a lot of stuff, but you know, you can be biracial and not look biracial.
I wanted to take a minute to explain our title. I don't know if the standardized tests are still the same, but there's not like a spot to mark anything other than the other race. And you know, we wanted to emphasize that these people are more than just the other race. They are more than that label.
Anna wanted to ask a question. Do you feel there is more negatively directed towards black and white, just black and white biracial children, or is it an equal amount towards like white and Asian or white and Chinese children?
Black and white.
That's where the thing come in with the being bad, because most people think of black people as being ghetto, loud, bad like me.
I didn't want to say it,
but just being honest, most people put that together because they think black people are troublemakers. That's why we say that being bad comes in it, because most people think that.
Well, you know, it's so interesting because I was watching this other video and it was just talking about, it was just a silly video, but it was talking about how white people rear their children versus African Americans. And you see, I've heard, and again, we're talking about stereotypes again, that African American parents are stricter than white parents are. So the children behave differently. So, you know, if you know, black children wouldn't dare think to talk back to their parents, whereas there's just a different, so even in terms of children, and I know it presents itself in different ways, but how children act and interact. You know, we say sit down, Jimmy, and you expect Jimmy to sit down. Maybe if I were Caucasian, based again on stereotypes, you say sit down like, no. I mean, you know, he cries, he doesn't want to sit down, they're having temper tantrums in the store because they want something. So the whole, and you can just give up, you know, again, based on stereotypes, you have a black child that look, and they just know that means to be quiet, and I'm not having that anymore. So, I don't know, because I've heard both sides. I understand what you're saying in terms of acting more, you know, whatever, versus acting disrespectful towards authority or things of that nature. So, I think it's all your perception. Let me put it that way. Your perception of your upbringing, right?
I think it's more stereotype. My mom was firm, but everybody know my mom got the fear of God. Like Like honestly, I know we be in public, and I know my mom always told me, "Well, you show out, and that's where you're gonna get it." I'm like, period. So when I went around her, you know, you acted out more. But when you around your parents, you don't act out anymore. And like honestly, not being funny, I have seen more white kids show out and stuff. Their mom be like, "You better stop." My mom would be like, out like right in the grocery store. That's the thing I noticed.
You hear about more lawsuits about white kids suing their parents than you do the other way.
And I will just real quick say that I know for my mom, because she was like you, I'm gonna beat you where you stand. It's because she would always say they already think you're an animal anyway. They already think you're untrained or don't have any home training anyway. So I'm not gonna add to it by letting you act crazy in public in front of them. So I know that's why we got it. That's why, you know.
I think with my, just a quick, like I told y'all about my brother, and I think it runs in the family as far as athletes. Like a lot of black athletes love, you know, white girls, no offense, but no offense. Especially at UGA, that's all I see. And I think for my parents, yeah, I had a little, I think it was more of the acceptance part of it. You know, or her parents gonna accept you, especially the dad. I mean, that's just, I think that's just with anybody, but that's the big thing with my parents. And if her parents accept him, I mean, he's gonna do what he's gonna do anyway. So,
Thank y'all.